G'day and welcome back to my channel. Now this is the little Riich Ka-Tsu 1/72 scale. It's so tiny, it's really cute. And that's basically where I got to last time, which was quite a while ago because I've just haven't really continued on with this kit. It's so tiny and fiddly, it really is hard for me to work on. But in this video, we're going to start laying down the colours to get ready for that fabulous 4-colour camo scheme. So does that sound interesting? Yes! Okay, roll the music. Well, this is how far I have got since that last shot, and I've got the brass on, that's the photo etch, and the muffler, that sort of thing, that's all on. The track links are currently off, but notice something at the front here. One of these headlamps is not like the other. This one's white, and there's a reason for that. This one was made out of milliput because I lost one of my little plastic headlamps when I took this catsuit to Model Club. So I use this stuff called green, or actually blue stuff from green stuff. Green stuff are the guys that make it, but this version's called blue stuff. Now you heat it up and then you can kind of mold it, and well, you can make it already soft, right? And then you put a part inside, squish it up, and you have a mold. And amazingly, milliput, but you've got to use the fine stuff, it will fill one of these little molds. You've got to experiment a bit. You can't put too much in, otherwise you end up with massive amounts of flash. But I don't know if you can see, in there is actually that shape. Right? There it is. So when you put the tiniest bit of milliput in there, so I mean you have to roll up a fair amount of it, so you always have some left over to make a well, one of these things that Bask leaves lying around when she's been eating a lot of white cheese. So yeah, so there you go. Now funny thing was, when I was doing this, I made two blobs, and I couldn't find, I cut this one open and I could not find the part anywhere. I didn't know where it was. I was racking my brain, and I'd already cut off the waste and rolled it up and put it away. I was, you don't throw it away because you can reuse it. This stuff, once it actually, you've used it and it sets, you can heat it up and remold it again. And lo and behold, that little part, even though I molded and squished this, the little part was still inside there. And this one worked out really well, actually. Worked out really well. So that part was right in the center and everything had been pushed and molded onto it. And it was just a matter of cutting. So once that was done, I could make, and here's a couple of my earlier attempts. I've got some photos here I'll put on the screen as well. Some of my earlier attempts weren't that good. But if you put too much in, you get massive amounts of flash. You put too little in, it gets some short shots. So you sort of have to work out what you need. Now, once you do get it right, your part is, I mean, you won't see it, it's so tiny, okay? But believe me, that is the same, to all intents and purposes, as that tiny little part, that headlamp. Now, the lamps had actually not only fallen off, they'd broken off, and I did find one. So I needed to make new little footings for them. So they've got, it's probably hard to see, this little brass wire there. And what you can do with this milliput is once it sets, you can drill into it. So it's a 0.4mm hole. I drilled in, see how I glued some brass wire in there, and how about that? So this milliput is incredible stuff for basically casting, and you can make your molds out of this bloody blue stuff. So I'll explore that more in some other videos, but I just wanted to see if it was possible. It's bloody fiddly with a little part, I will give you that. I went through probably about 6 goes till I got it right. But it shows promise. So if I ever need a part and I've got a broken one, I need to mould a decent one, I know I can do it with milliput. What I'm going to do now is attempt this camo scheme, because I've got all my parts ready. I can start priming them and painting them. And this is exciting. I mean, there's a lot of fun to be had here. Don't know about the green on the torpedoes, because the Dragon kit shows the torpedoes to be like metal colour, so I might do that instead. Although, that's good camouflage, but honestly, you've got some torpedoes there and you're heading towards a battleship that's moored in that hole, I think they're going to see you. It wouldn't matter what colour they are, so don't waste your paint. So I might do that. There has been some conjecture, Bernard has been trying to work it out, as to why these torpedoes seem to be a lot longer and have got nipples on the end, and they're one type of torpedo, and then the torpedoes on the Riich Ka-Tsu are shorter and they don't have that nipple in the extra section. And yeah, we'll sort of examine that more when I do the Dragon build. I think I don't really care for this one. They're fine. I'm not going to try and make some more torpedoes. They will be good. Alright, well, all my bits will come apart. Nothing on here is fixed, so my torpedoes fall off, my bridge comes off. So you might be able to see in there, see those two little bits of photo etch? Yeah, they're tiny, and they are for this little hatch here. So you basically, they'd swing it open from the inside. And quite frankly, this is the only time you'll ever see it. By the time this is on the boat, you know, on the amphibious craft, you're not going to see a bloody thing. So anyhow, that's fine. I did it, and it's just a challenge for me. And that's the thing, it wouldn't have mattered if I got it wrong, and that was it. So I thought, well, I'll have a go, and if I can do it, terrific. And then I've actually accomplished that. If not, it's not a problem because no one's ever going to see it. My track links are off because with my method, which I've shown in other videos, my at least my sprocket and my idler are loose. I don't glue in my sprocket and my idler, they're just connected with liquid tape. I've discussed that ad nauseum in so many videos. So those two will just pop off. Oh, okay. And then when I need to, they just click back on again. So liquid tape is a fantastic little contact adhesive that is reusable. In fact, when I put the model together, I won't worry about gluing those. I'll leave them. It allows my sprocket to turn, which is handy, so it matches up with the track links. Now I did have some of these on with liquid tape, but they kept falling off, so they were glued in place. Normally I would leave all of that off and paint all those wheels off the model, but this is so tiny, and I had such a devil of a time trying to line all those up and get them into place with the track links that basically they'll get painted in situ. It's unusual for me, but they'll just get painted and I'll try and paint the tyres as they are. But the links will be separate, so they come off. Now, my little brass parts falling off my muffler there. My muffler is actually only just tiny tack of Tamiya. Oh, actually started to do it here. Tiny tack of Tamiya. I probably should have put another bit more Tamiya on there, and you can release the part. This is a trick. If you just want to tack a part in place because you want to see how it's going to look, you can put a tiny little dot of Tamiya, thin, and it holds in place. And when you want to release it, you should really tap it with Tamiya thin. It will dissolve that joint, and you can lift the part off again. So don't do as I've done, try and yank on it. These are held on with liquid tape, so they just come off. Now that liquid tape will need to be removed from the body of this. So they just that'll just come off with a little bit of Windex and water. Windex is what you use to clean windows. So that's that. Everything else is pretty well set in place. The little headlamps are there safely put in this bag, along with a looks like a gear lever or something, and some other lever. All the tiny things, they're things that would break and fall off. I put on a few things onto the bridge that I felt, with a bit of luck, my fumbling fingers wouldn't snap them off. But yeah, so that's all going to get painted now. It's quite nice in there, isn't it? Quite detailed. Even the Dragon kit, which is twice the scale, doesn't really have much more detail inside the little bridge there. Quite good. Now with a bit of luck, this torpedo, and we'll have to sort of cross fingers here, this torpedo will slide out because these things, a little bit of a bugger to put on, these little photo etch straps. In the end I found, bend them to the shape that you need, that kind of shape, and CA glue them at the top and the bottom, and then try and slide in your torpedo. And that allows me to pull that out, and I can paint all that. I mean, I probably could have left them till later because they're a different colour, those straps. You have a look at the painting diagram, the dark colour, but it's going to be easier. I can prime everything in one, and off we go. So that's well, that one's come a bit loose. Yes, the more you play with it, Harry, you'll break it. That's what they've always said to me. If you keep playing with it, Harry, you'll break it. And they were right. So I'm going to have to put a little bit of glue on there. I've bang that. But I will do that, and I'll get that set again, and then we shall start painting. The track links were primed in black Stynylrez, which I always prefer as my base colour when I'm doing track links. Now, I want them to look metallic and a little bit sort of muddy, rusty and everything and worn. And even though I know there's a prototype, still, even during the trials of the prototype, track links are going to wear and they're going to dirty up. So this is a part of the vehicle we can actually add some effects to. Most of the body and everything, well, it's not really going to have a lot of chipping and wear and tear because it was brand new, pretty well, prototype. But the track links, well, it would have run around and been tested, so they're going to get a little bit scratched and a little bit muddied up. So we can do that. Now I've got here some of my life color paints. You can use anything. I'm using acrylics, but really this effect will work no matter what. You can use anything at all, you know, basically. I'm using a rot brown, okay, which is basically like a hull primer color. This is the basically RAL 3009 if you want the exact colour. It doesn't really matter. You need a reddy brown, right? You need a dark browny brown, and then here my wash that I'm using, it's called Colonial Dark Sand. So you need more of a, it sort of looks yellow there, but honestly when you shake it up it actually goes a bit darker. So let's turn those bottles over before they spill everywhere. In fact, you can see the colours more clearly on the top. Maybe you can. Alright, this is how the effect goes. I have shown this before, but we've been in much larger scales. So let's see how we go. Now I've already stirred these up and I've already put some paint in the lid. So I don't usually try and shake those live colours. So what I do is, it's a very simple method. Splodge, splodge, splodge. Right. Splodge. Okay, I'll do the rest later. I'm just going to show you the effect on this one section. Being acrylics, these things dry incredibly fast, so I can do the entire effect in one go. If you're using enamels, or maybe some lacquers or something, you might need to wait a little while. So now my brown one, again. Now the idea is to end up with about equal areas painted of black, dark brown and the red. That's what you're aiming for. So you know, you don't want it all black, you don't want it all red, and you don't want it all brown. So we'll give that just a few secs to dry. It won't take long at all. Right, I've allowed a few minutes and that's pretty well touch dry. It's not super dry, but that is the beauty of working in water-based acrylics. Admittedly, you can also get similar effects with the alcohol acrylics and even the lacquers. Your enamels are going to take a week. Oh, enamel paints, you know, enamel paints take a while to dry. You can't go and put washes straight over enamels. But acrylics, once they're cured and they're dried, then you can basically go again. Now, top tip with all those little jar things I found, don't shake them because actually it buggers everything up and then it gets paint inside the thread, and then basically the lids distort and then the heat gets in there, the paint all dries up inside. So I've had some terrible disasters with my paint because of that. Stir, always stir. So, doing what you don't normally do, I'm going to load this brush up to the max, right? It's loaded. And sloppo. You think, oh, you're ruining it, Harry. No, I'm not, because this is a wash. This is life colour is a pigment. This stuff, liquid pigments, okay? And as long as what is underneath. Okay, you'll even see the other colours bleeding through. So, we now need to leave that to dry to see what that looks like once that all the water disappears and we're just left with the pigment over our dark brown and our red brown. Now that's dried, that wash just disappears into there. Well, what it does is it smooths out all of those red and brown splotches. And what you end up with is just a sort of patina, and nothing is, you know, as stark as it was before, but you're getting a nice sort of effect, at least I think, of sort of random, you know, muddy, metallic, possibly rusty sort of colours. It just breaks it all up. What we're going to do now is, and I've already sort of started messing around with this down here, is putting on the worn metal effect. When the edges of the track links rub against the ground, they actually wear down to metal. So they need to be metal, and also the guide horns need to be a worn metal look, because they are rubbing metal on, you know, ground or whatever, and that'll give another contrast to all this and make it look really nice. Now to get this effect you'll need some sort of metallic paint. I've just got some gunmetal here. You can sort of do it with silver, and I started out doing a bit of test on my life colour, which is basically an aluminium, that one, but it's just a metal. But that paint is, like a lot of my life colour paint, cactus. So I'm going to introduce this one, Ammo MIG. You are going to dry brush most of this, so we're going to waste a lot of it. So, and again, I'm not using my fantastic sable brushes to do any of this, because this is just a very simple effect. Brush sideways and simply just let it run. As long as you've got a bit of paint on there, but you're not too heavy, it'll just stroke along the top. So it's dry brush sort of, but it's a bit of a sort of a wetty dry brush, if that makes sense. I mean, you could try and dry brush it, but honestly, if you rub too hard on these tiny fragile track links, this is a lot harder to work with than those 1/35th scale kits that I've done lots of effects on over the years. Trying to replicate the same sort of thing on this. There we go, we're starting to get the effect there. It really catches the light, but it won't be that shiny all the time. So it just lifts those edges, well, bottom treads of the links. In this case, of course, that's the top run. That's the one you're really going to see, so this is the one you want to get right. But it just gives it that metallic look, which it is. So I'll keep going with that. The other thing we'll make metal is the very tips. They often bang on things, and as I said, the guide horns. And it's very, very tricky at this scale, I must say. This is much, much harder than 1/35th. Oh dear, I hope I can actually accomplish this effect. I'll keep pressing on. There we go, it's really starting to come together now. Got that metal effect happening. It'll be more obvious in contrast to the tank. Now, one thing you can do is, say you accidentally slop and you put too much of that silver paint and it falls down inside one of these links. What you can do is just get your toothpick and scrape it out while it's wet. Don't do it later, it's dry, it just won't happen. While it's wet, you can do that. So there we go. So the guide horns were painted with a wet brush, and that will slop around. But by the time this goes into the road wheels and we slap some mud on it, everything turns into a big sort of random mess, and we will get a very, very nice effect of metallic track links. That's all I'm trying to do. It's a lot easier on a bigger scale, but it's sort of getting there in 1/72nd. Let's see what it looks like on the tank. Now I have painted the tyres. Don't look too closely. That was a real nightmare job. In hindsight, maybe I could have done my usual trick, as I do a larger scale, is leave all the wheels off, and then you can stick them on toothpicks and you can rotate them and paint them, or you can just paint them all the tyre black colour and then use a stencil to airbrush in the centre. But I hand painted all those. They're ordinary, but I'm hoping with the track links and a bit of mud and everything and being so tiny, we'll never see it. Alright, so at this point, my nicely painted up links will fit on here. So just slide onto the return roller, and then if I've got that right, slide in there. Come on. Yes. It's so tiny and so fragile. Yeah. Okay, that's that there. And then there's enough paint on these that friction alone, I will glue them eventually, but friction alone is going to get those guys to sit. So look, there we go. I have also done some dry brushing effects on these tiny little guns. So that's just giving them a bit of life. Basically they were primed black, then they were dry brushed with the metallic, and then I ran a dark wash over them just to basically even it all out. So it's given a bit of it's done something. It's, you know, you don't want to look too closely. It's 1/72 scale, everything's tiny. Well, there she is. And that's looking pretty good, I think. It's almost sort of done. I mean, if you were just using the plain green camo scheme, was not a camo scheme, well, I suppose it is. If you were in somewhere green, it would be. But if you were just using the basic green colour scheme, that's it. You might want to paint your torpedoes whatever colour you decide they need to be. Mine are black. I've got to paint the muffler as well. I've forgotten that. And I've got a few other little touch-ups, like I've got to put some silver on the headlamps. But there's not much. I mean, fling a bit of mud on this, which is pretty well done. Very happy with how the track links turned out. And you've got to see that really in person to see how nice they kind of look and how they set off against the starkness and the kind of boring sort of green everywhere. But once I get the super duper camo scheme on, this is what we're going to do next time. Really looking forward to that 4-colour camo scheme that goes on this. Then I think this Ka-Tsu is going to come alive. And all the screaming and shouting, well, you didn't hear all that. I'll tell you what, 1/72 scale, never again. Especially painting little wheels and doing things. It's too small for my wombat fingers and my bandicoot eyes. It's just too hard. It's too hard. All right, well, look, I'll leave you there. We'll come back next time and I'll do the 4-colour camo scheme. So that's it. It's goodbye from Australia, and it's hooroo from Harry Houdini.